the offline classes, we are done with two units. First 2 units, we are done with first 2 units and half of the third unit. Now, in this class, we will be dealing with the other half of the third unit. Okay. So, I'll be sharing my screen. Please give me a minute and please let me know if there is any technical glitches. Please unmute yourself and let me know if there are any technical glitches. Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Fine.
Yeah,
Yes,
give me a minute. I'll share my screen. So is my screen visible? Is the PPT visible?
Visible.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So in the last class, we have discussed about groups, right? What are the different types of group, formal, informal groups, and how does groups influence in individuals and all. We discussed everything about groups. In today's class, we would be discussing about work teams. Okay. So in order to understand about work teams, it is important for us to understand the differences between work groups and work teams. Right? Many of the individuals use these terms, groups and teams, interchangeably. But it is important for us to understand the differences between groups and teams. So in today's class, let us understand the differences between work groups and work teams. So let's take an example and understand about what is the difference between both of this. So I think everyone of you know about cricket, right? Many of you might be watching it. Many of you might have heard about it. So whenever you hear, you will be hearing it as Indian cricket team. We don't refer it as Indian cricket group, right? We refer it as Indian cricket team, Australian cricket team. So we are talking about cricket, players in the cricket. Can you all hear me?
No, yeah.
Yeah. So when we are referring to the Indian cricket team, we would be referring to them as teams. For example, consider a group of fans, right? So there would be a fan club and there would be members in a fan club who might be hosting for celebrities or for example, Indian cricket team only. There is a fan club for Indian cricket team. The members in the fan club are referred to as group of fans but not team of fans. So why do Indian cricket team players are referred as teams and why are group of fans referred as groups? So what happens is that whenever we are talking about the groups, people come together in the groups in order to share information. Whatever information it might be, they come together in order to share information. So when we are talking about fan club and fan group, right? Group of fans, wherein they come together and they discuss about anything related to their favorite player might be or the any upcoming events of their Indian cricket team. How did the players played in the past? Who all have got selected for the World Cup? Different things they would be sharing information in that group related to the fan club as an Indian cricket team. If that is the fan club of Indian cricket team. So when we are talking about the work teams, that is Indian cricket team. Indian cricket team, all the players in the Indian cricket team come together not only to share information, along with sharing information, they are together in order to perform a particular task. What is the task in their hands? To play cricket for India and to win a cup. Their final goal is to win a cup for India. Right? They are playing the match. Playing the match is the task they have to perform. So what is the difference? In the group, people come together in order to just share information. Whenever we are talking about teams, they come together to share information and also they would be performing a particular task. Then the next difference would be when we are talking about the groups, generally in many of the groups, there would be only a single leader. So when we are talking about a group of fans, right, fan club. For this fan club, there would be a leader who would have initiated that fan club. He or she might be the leader of that fan club. When we are talking about teams, there would be multiple leaders. Every time it is not necessary that in teams there would be multiple leaders, but it is okay if the teams have multiple leaders. Then we would be talking about effort. So what happens is that in groups, individual can make their own decisions. As in order to join the fan club, it is their decision, right? If they wanted to be in that fan club, it is their decision. If they want to actively take part in it, or else passively just look what is going on in that team, everything depends on that individual. He or she has that right to take decisions, right? So when we are talking about teams, it is important that they have to put collective effort and have mutual understanding. For example, when they are playing for India, they are all the cricket team of India, right? So if they won't put equal efforts, for example, if the bowling team has given their full effort and when it came to batting, the batters didn't perform well, then it doesn't go well, right? There should be collective effort. There should be effort from both batters and also bowlers, so that they would be performing the task successfully. And also there should be mutual understanding. For example, let's think, many of the players have their definite positions wherein they play very well. That would be their strength. For example, some would be good at opening. They would be going first and second place, then only they can play well. For example, if they might have sent the same player in the fifth position, he or she might not have that runs in that position. So the other players in the team should have that understanding that whoever scores well in the opening position, they should be sending them in the opening position. And they have to look for other players who would be playing good at fifth, sixth positions. So likewise, when coming to bowling and all, they would be knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses, right? So when we're talking about group, there would be very low interdependence. I'm not saying that they won't be dependent on each other. Yes, they would be dependent on each other when they are sharing information and receiving information. But when compared to teams, it is lower interdependence. When we are talking about higher interdependence, each team member is dependent on the other team member of the same team. Because what happens, for example, if the bowler is bowling very good, he has very good skill, he's bowling very good, the batter is not able to bat. So once he gave the catch, wherein if the fielder drops the catch, will there be any use of his bowling? No, right? He would be appreciated personally, but it won't be they won't be able to win the game, right? So there would be collective effort and each other would be dependent on the other individual of the team. And also in groups, everyone would be accountable of their own decisions. Whatever decisions they take, they feel responsible about their decisions. But when coming to team, they have to take responsibility of their own opinions and decisions, and also they are accountable of other team members, because they are deciding it mutually, right? They would be discussing with each other, then take decisions. So whatever happens, if the team loses or wins, everyone should take the responsibility, right? For example, whenever you see there would be commentary after the match, many of the players comes, they don't take their individual accountability, but when the captain speaks, he speaks because behalf on his team. He takes responsibility of the whole team. Even every player in the team is accountable of other team members, because whatever they have planned and executed, it is on mutual consent, as in they have to permission from all the members of the team. And in groups, each individual would be having varied skills, different skills. When we are talking about teams, complementary skills, as in the skills are different, but if these skills are combined with the other skills, then that would be useful. The same example which I have explained earlier, as in the bowler and the batter and fielder. So the bowler is giving good yorkers, the fast bowling is very good, he is giving good catches, but if the fielder on the field is not fielding well, right? The bowler is bowling well, but if the fielder is not being able to catch, not being able to stop the four, even though if the bowler is doing good, his skill would not be that much useful, right? They won't be able to perform well in that game. So it is important. They have skills. Every individual member of the team has different skills. But these different skills, when combined with other skills of other players, then it becomes most useful. Then in groups, what happens is that if there is any problem or any of the work to do, they first discuss, then decide and delegate. When we are talking about delegate, they won't be doing the action, but they would be distributing the responsibilities to other group members. So whenever we are talking about work teams, what happens is that the work teams discuss among themselves, decide, and also they perform actions. And work groups, neutral synergy. For example, in work groups, what happens is that each individual does some work, and later, if you sum all the individual works, it would be same. But when it comes to teams, when they do the work individually, it won't be much valued than the teamwork. As in, for example, in a game, one player bowls yorkers. Every player has different skills, and every player has to do their part. So if you see their part individually, it won't be weighed much. For example, what happens is that one of the player has hit century. Okay, we are talking about cricket, right? So just think that one of the player has hit his century, and the other player has also been hit 50. So, but the bowling team individually when they play, this is the team play, right? They have decided, they have mutual understanding everything. Individually in test matches or something, if they play that might not weigh the same importance when it is combined effort, collective effort. If they win the game, then that is the collective effort. As in individually, if they play, that won't be weighed much. But it is a team sport. Here, the evaluation is based on team performance. You would be getting rewards, or your team would be evaluated on collective effort, but not individual effort. When we are talking about work groups, groups would be evaluated on individual efforts. Individual performance would be rewarded. Whereas teams would be evaluated based on team performance, because there would be many different teams, right? Individual players are not given much importance, because this is a collective effort wherein there is a collective goal. Every player has to give their own effort. So this is about groups and teams. So I hope you understood the differences between groups and teams.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So let's move to the other slide. So now we'll be solely discussing about work teams. Now we'll be discussing about types of work teams. So what happens is that there are 4 different types of work teams which are important. They are problem solving teams, self-managed work teams, cross-functional teams, and virtual teams. So when we are talking, first let's discuss about problem solving teams. Okay. Even this will be understanding with an example which might make easier for you to understand. For example, there might be a soap manufacturing company, any of the soap, take Dettol, Lifebuoy, Synthol, any of the soaps, any one of the soap manufacturing company. What happens is that first that soap manufacturing company has manufactured soap and released it into the market. So they found that the sale has been very good. Then what that company thought is to manufacture other product, which is face wash. So the same company has also manufactured face wash and released it into the market. And for that product also, the results were same, as in the sales met their expectations. Then what happened, for the third time they decided to manufacture a moisturizer of the same company. For example, if the company might be Synthol. When we are talking about Synthol, the company might have manufactured soap, the results were good. For body wash, the results were good. And now they are going to deal with moisturizer. So what happened, they have manufactured the moisturizer and released it into the market. But they saw that the sales did not meet their expectations. So what happened, there was a problem that the product is not being sold, right? So they have to discuss this problem. When we are talking about problem solving teams, here there would be many different departments in this company, right? Soap manufacturing company, manufacturing department, legal department, sales department, marketing department. There will be different types of departments. But as this is related to sales department, as the sales are not being met expectations, what happens is that there would be a team of problem solving from that sales department. All the members of that team would be sales from the sales department. Okay, from any other department we won't be taking any members. All these members of problem solving team would be from the same department. Either it might, when we are talking about sales, we will be selecting members from the sales department. Individually they have other works in other days, as in keeping the check of the sales, analyzing the sales. Everyone would be having other works, but as there is a problem, they come together, as in 3 hours a week and something. They come together and discuss the problems. What all do they? There is no authority in this team. Okay, anyone in this team do not have any decision making authority. They just come together, they see what is the problem, they analyze what all can be done in order to solve this problem, discussed. They won't be deciding, they will only be discussing and looking for other inputs and taking inputs. Here only discussion will be done, and also they know which solution to be applied, but here they won't be applying the solution because there is no decision making authority. They can't take decision on their own. They would be only give recommendations what all can be done in order to solve problems. Okay, this is about problem solving teams. Next, we'll be moving into self-managed teams. In these teams, what happens is that there is no supervisor for them. People in these teams would be generally supervising their own work and also the other team members' work. No supervisors, every member will be supervising other team members' work. Generally, the people in this group, what they do is that if there is any problem or any task to perform, they will be discussing, deciding, and acting. In the previous group, we have seen that they won't be taking any action because there is no decision making authority. Here in self-managed work teams, every individual has the decision making authority. They will be discussing with each other and deciding and then performing the action, as in they know what action to take in order to resolve this problem. So the solution will be applied in self-managed work teams. So they'll be planning, scheduling, and acting. And in these self-managed work teams, as they know, individuals would be having higher job satisfaction. Why? Because they know what they are doing, whatever they know, their consent is being taken, they can have decision making authority, right? So, but what happens is that in these type of teams, there is very bad conflict management. For example, if there is in these self-managed work teams, for example, there might be 5 to 6 members, right? So, in between any two members, there might be a dispute. So, after the dispute, what happens is that it becomes difficult for them to cooperate with each other. They can't share their inputs or they can't agree on the other input because they might be having dispute, so they are not able to solve them. So whenever they are supervising the others work, they are criticizing it. So there would be very bad conflict management in self-managed work teams. And also there are higher absenteeism and turnover rate. What happens is that every other individual would be planning, scheduling, and acting, and also they would be supervising the other team members work. So what other members of the team might be thinking is that even though if I am not present in the team, if I don't do the work, my other team members would be supervising it and they would be taking part in it and they would be completing it. So there would be very higher absenteeism and turnover rates in self-managed teams. I hope you understood problem solving teams and self-managed teams. Okay. Now we'll be dealing with Now we'll be dealing with cross-functional teams. So in problem solving teams, we took the team members, everyone from the same department. In cross-functional teams, what happens is that we'll be taking individuals from different departments but at the same level. For example, if you wanted to manufacture a new product, let's say soap. If you wanted to manufacture a soap, in order to manufacture a soap, you need to have involvement of every other department. For example, for manufacturing, you need manufacturing department. Then in order to sell that soap, you need sales department help, marketing department help, legal department help, because the ingredients in the soap are if there would be any legal actions against it, everything has to be checked, right? So you, in order to produce and sell this product, you need managers from different departments. So you'll be selecting manager from sales department, manufacturing department, legal departments, marketing department. Everyone would be forming as a team and giving in their inputs. So what happens is that after selecting the managers of different departments, then the different departments people would be discussing on what all should be done, how can a product be manufactured, what all products can be used in it, and are the products available, if not what are the other alternatives, whether to whether we can use that product or not, whether it is safe to use, whether there would be any legal complications by using it. Everything will be discussed. So each manager would be giving inputs on belonging to their own department. And sales department, they would be giving inputs how they can sell it. Marketing department, they would be saying that how can we market that product, right? So everyone would be giving inputs related to their work. So in this, what happens is that even though if the task is complex, very much complex and difficult to do, as everyone is involved in it, everyone's input is given, it would be easier. They would be able to reach their final goal. They would be able to manufacture that product, sell that product, and the results would be meeting their expectations. And in this team, one problem is that initially there would be rapport building and trust issues, wherein what happens is that people from different departments, they have been working with different peoples, right? As they are managers, they would be having some employees in their teams, and their work style might be different. So every manager in the organization, every different department manager would be having different working style. So once when they all come together and start working, it would be difficult for them to develop trust within each other, and also rapport building, as in they might not be interacting with each other, they might not be trusting each other. So once if these team members develop trust and build their rapport, then it would be easier for them to communicate, interact, and the results would be good, efficient. There would be efficient results. So cross functional teams are gives best results, but also they have to have enough trust between each other. Then we will be moving to virtual teams. So when we are talking about virtual teams, these discussions or anything related to these teams happen only on online via computer or any digital technology. Okay, only we use technology to interact with members of the team. They do not have face-to-face discussions. They won't meet directly. They only meet using computers or any other technology. So some of the technologies might be, they might be interacting using a World Wide Web and emails, video conferencing, any of the technology they can use in order to interact. So what happens is that research has showed that when the members of virtual teams are interacting, they share unique ideas and information with each other. Why do you think they share unique ideas and information with each other in virtual teams? Can anyone tell me why do people in
Might be they
virtual
are from
teams
different
share?
regions.
Yes, good. They are coming from different regions, right? For example, Globe has these companies, right? What happens is that the same company is in America and the same company is in India, right? Multinational companies. So what happens is that the for example, if the company is in US, they might have work with Indian employee. So when they are virtual team. When they are meeting, their work environment would be different. Their thought process would be different entirely. So when they are sharing information, it would be unique to each other because the environment and the thought process in which they are working are different. Right? And also it has been found that whenever people work in virtual teams, they would be sharing very less information when compared to all other teams. When we meet face to face, generally we would be talking what all comes in our mind. We would be giving every idea we have. But when we are talking virtually,
company start చేస్తాడు startup.
yes, sorry, I can't hear you.
I think it's an accidental talk now. I was talking to someone else.
Okay, let's continue. So what happens is that if there is no face-to-face interaction, we have never met them before, we would be only sharing less information. Less information as in when we are interacting face-to-face, we would be having many different ideas in our mind, and we would be sharing every idea, whatever
బయటకు
comes to
ఎందుకు
our mind.
వస్తుంది?
So we'd be sharing every
ఇక్కడ
idea.
ఏమన్నా లేదా?
Can you please mute yourself?
If you have the control here, you mute everyone and release us when you want us to talk.
Nukal and Ushasri, can you please mute yourself?
Ushasri, can you please mute?
Excuse me, I am warning others not to talk and I am requesting ma'am, she has a control to mute everybody and when she can allow us, she can unmute so that class won't be disturbed.
what happens is that as there is no trust between them, they have not met anyone before, they only meet for their work purpose, they have not seen how they would be behaving and all their actions and everything. So they would be thinking before sharing anything, they would be only sharing very important information. So what happens is that whenever they share the information is very less but unique to each other, which helps them to work and do the task successfully. So we are done with the types of teams. You all understood, right? Types of teams.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So do you think every team would be effective?
Yes, in its own way.
Most of the times.
Okay. So what happens is that, for example, if you take any IT company or any other companies or organizations, what happens is that that companies receives projects from other different companies, right? So there would be many different projects. For every company's project, there would be one different team. So what happens is that every team might not be that productive. Every team might not be putting the same effort. They might not be giving the same results. So in order to make teams efficient or effective, what all we can do, we'll be looking into those factors, okay, in order to make the team effective. So we will be focusing on three main factors, that is context, composition and process. When we are talking about context, we are talking about the environment, the situation in which the employees or the team members can work. When we are talking about the composition, it is about the individuals who are the members of that team. When we are talking about the process, we are talking about how the process can go on in order to perform that task. So we will be looking into each one of it detailed. So when we are talking about context, the first one would be of adequate resources. So you have taken a team of 5 to 6 members, wherein they have been allotted to a project. They are allotted to a project, but in order to perform or go further on that project, they need some resources. As in, you have to provide each individual or each employee with personal laptops. You have to provide them with Wi-Fi or any other software on which they can run their codes. If you won't provide them adequate resources in order to perform their activities, then how can the employees perform well? How can the team will be proved effective? So it is important for the organizations to provide adequate resources to the team members so that that team would be performing efficiently and effectively. So then comes leadership and structure. So when we are talking about leadership, there would be different styles of leadership which we would be discussing in next class. Then you would be knowing which type of leadership will be good. So when we are talking about team, so the team members should be okay with their leader. So the leader should take what we have discussed. In team, there can be one or multiple leaders. So even though if there is one or multiple leaders, each team lead should listen to the other team members. He or she has to take input from the team members, and also the team lead should share what he is thinking with the team members. Mutual discussion should be done before taking decisions, right? And also structure, the team members should be knowing whom to contact, when to contact, how will be the contact would be, how will the communication, as in they can contact the leader whenever they want, or else there would be any particular discussions, would the discussions be open discussions or one-to-one discussions, how they can share their ideas and everything, that should be clear. The structure of the team, how they would be performing, everything should be clean. As in, the leader, if there is any structure, the leader should take the initiative and explain it, communicate it to the other members of the team. Only when the leadership is accepted, when the leader is accepted by the team members, and if the structure is known to both leader and the team members, then only the team can be efficient, right? Then the next factor is climate of trust. So in cross functional teams, we have seen, right, if there is no trust between the members, if there is no rapport, they won't be able to work well. For example, there is 5 to 6 members, out of which 3 members doesn't have any of the rights. I mean, they won't have trust on each other. they won't be able to trust. They have interacted with many a times, but they were not able to trust each other. So when there is no trust between members of the team, they won't be able to share their opinions freely. There would come hesitation in between, right? So it is important for each member of the each member of the team to develop trust, right? So they can whenever they form new teams, there can be some trust exercises in order to build trust. In order to there should be some rapport building sessions before actually jumping into the task, in order to introduce to each other, know about each other, everything. So there should be some sort of initiation from system. So many a times what happens is that the employees in the organization, you all can hear me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So many a times what happens, the employees in the organization doesn't know how will they be rewarded. As in they would be giving some task and objectives to the employees, they would be completing it. Even after that, they don't understand why they don't receive rewards, right? Whereas the other employees would be receiving rewards, performance pays, etc. So what the organization has to do is that the performance evaluation methods should be known to the employees. In what way is their performance evaluated? What all methods you would be considering, or what all works you would be considering in order to reward an individual, right? Every individual would be doing the work which they have given, right? So even after doing work, they don't whenever they see other employees receiving rewards, they won't be understanding the reward system and how the performance is being evaluated. So every employee or every team member in the team should know how their performance would be evaluated. So they would be performing accordingly and the results would be good. Eventually the team would be proved as effective. Then we would be moving to factors in composition. This is related to the members of the team, as in related to their personality, skills, abilities, etc. Okay. So now we are talking about ability of members. So each member in the team should have mutual understanding. We have discussed when we are discussing about the difference between teams and groups, right? Every member in the team should have mutual understanding, as in every member of the team should know the other members' strengths and also weaknesses, where they can perform better, where they can't perform better, what all additional skills they need, or additional resources we have to provide to them, or where else we can help the other individual. So the abilities should be clearly known to every individual of the group. If the ability of the individuals or the members in the team is not known, then it would be difficult for the team lead or the organization to allot tasks to that team members, right? So it is important to know the abilities of each and every member of the team. Then comes, right? One's personality can't match others' personality. It is different from individual to individual. So we have to even focus on the personality, as in when we are making teams, you have to also look at the personality of the individual while you are making teams. While you are selecting individuals, for example, if you select individuals of aggressive personality, right? So there is a team, there is a project, and you have selected some teams, and all the people in that team either is having impulsive personality or aggressive personality. If they have such sort of personality, what happens is that they would be immediately jumping into the discussions without even thinking, right? So when we are talking about aggressive personality, if their decision is not being valued, then there might be some conflicts and everything. Impulsive personality, they will be directly jumping into solutions. So it is important for us to also focus on the personality of the team members in order to make the team effective. Allocating roles. So after knowing the strengths, abilities, skills, and personality of the team member, you would be knowing which role to allocate to which member, right? you know his abilities, you know his skills, then you also know which task the employee can do well. So you have to allocate the role which the employee can do. If you allocate the wrong role, or the role which is higher than the employee can do, then he or she might not be able to perform well. So that is the organization side to develop some official guidelines which will be useful for the employees.
Ma'am, not audible.
I'm sorry, there's a problem.
Yes, ma'am, it's clear now.
You all can see the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can see.
So yeah, now we will be discussing about diversity in team members. So do you think if there is diversity in team members, would the team be effective?
Absolutely,
Both
ma'am.
positive and negative,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am, not effective.
Not
Diversity
effective.
is important.
Yeah. Diversity is important, and also diversity is important in today's organization. There is much diverse people, right? Previously women used to not go to work that much, but in today's world many of the women are going to the work, they are working, and also many of the employees from different cultures, as in world has become a global place, as in multinational companies, people from US come to India, they work in India, people from abroad, people from India go to abroad, they work there. So even though we are having diverse people, it is important for us to have ethical rules, right? For example, if there would be racial discrimination and all without the uh, knowledge of the organization. So what the organization has to do is that they have to prepare some official guidelines, how the employees should be behaving, how they should be respecting each other. So there should be proper guidelines which the employee has to follow, and that the organization has to be giving that guidelines, so that people, even with from diverse cultures, diverse races, diverse genders, they can sexual orientations, diverse sexual orientations can come together and work properly. So that is on the organization side, to develop some official guidelines which will be useful for the employees in order to respect each other, right? Then we will be coming to size of teams. So what do you think, whether the small groups would be useful, small teams would be useful, or big teams, large teams?
Depends. Depends on the size of the organization, ma'am.
Okay. So when the organization is on a large scale, then what do you think the size of the team, I mean, whether it should be small or large?
I I personally think small teams would be much
Though
effective.
it is small, the effectiveness of the group matters, ma'am.
Okay. So there has been.
In terms to manage, small teams are easier to manage.
Small teams are
Management.
more effective, ma'am.
Small teams, there is less members to means like to give point of view, and there will be no the less number of overcovering to each other. They will listen to each other's thoughts, and quickly the things will be effective implemented in small teams.
So what happened is that there has been much research on this topic, whether the teams should be of larger size or small size. It has been found that the teams should be small in size, as in the members of the team can be between 9 to 15 or 6 to 9. So this is the ideal number. So why should be the size of the team small? Because what happens is that, as we discussed in group, right? In group we have discussed about social loafing. right? The topic social loafing. Can anyone of you tell me what social loafing is? No idea? So what happens as the number of members in the team increases, what happens is the social loafing is that the ability of the, for example, if the individual does 50% of the work when he is doing it individually, the same individual would be doing only 2 to 5% of work when they work in the groups, right? The amount of effort they put would be reduced, because eventually if they do work or do not work, if the team is being successful, they would be also getting the credit. So the work of the individual would be reducing, the interest of the individual would be restrictive. So that what we have to do is that the size of the team should be between 9 to 15 members, wherein each member, so even if the size of the team is large, it is important for us to know the abilities of each member. So when the size is large, as in if you have 30 members in a team, for each member, it is difficult to remember the abilities of other team members, right? So we have to ideally have a smaller group in order to know the abilities, and you have to understand the other individual, right? So you can't anyways go on trusting all the 30 members. You can't share the information with all the 30 members. You can't remember their strengths and weaknesses, right? So it is ideal to have a group, small group between 9 to 15 members. And also you have to see that there shouldn't be any social loafing. As in each individual should be putting the same effort, and each individual would be performing the task given. Then only the team would be proven as effective. Then comes member flexibility. So what happens is that sometimes many of the team, some of the team members might not be feeling well, or there is any disturbance in the team. They might, one or two members might not be able to perform the work. Then what happens is that the other team members would be able to compensate their work, as in they should be in a way that they should be flexible. They would be able to do their work, or if there is problem in doing that work, if they ask to swap works, then that should be the members in the team should be flexible. They should be able to do the works of the other individuals, as in they shouldn't be taking up the work. But if they want the swap of works, if they wanted to do this work and they would be allotting you to the other work, you should be flexible in doing different types of work. As in whenever you are working in a team, when you know abilities of other members, what are abilities, you have been allocated the roles, right? Based on your skills you have been allocated roles, but there are also skills wherein you might be good at one of the skill, and you might also have the skill which the other employee has been allocated. Sometimes if you are asked to switch the roles, then you should be able to switch the roles, because even you have the ability to do that role. Then comes member preferences. Sometimes what happens is that even though the member is not preferred, in what way are we selecting the team members? What are the guidelines? What are the criteria we are using to select the team members? It is important to note down all these criteria, as in the personality of the individual should be known, the abilities of the individual should be known, and also what all roles are available in that team, right? For example, for some project, you don't need multiple code, as in it is when you are taking about organization, IT companies and all, you don't need multiple code writers. You need only one code writer. So in such situations, what all roles are available, what are the abilities of the employees, what is the personality of the employees, whether the personality would be matching, whether the skills would be useful to this particular role. Based on all these preferences, you have to select the team members. That is all about the composition. Then we would be moving to process. So common purpose, right? So all the team members are assigned a task. So that task is the common purpose of the team. They would be having the final performance which they have to give in, and they have to work for it. For example, taking up the project, or there 7 to 8 members, they took up a project. They have, the deadline is they have to complete it in 20 to 25 days. The project should be done in 20 to 25 days, and there are 8 members in a team. So everyone's common purpose is they are working to complete this project. So everyone has to do their part, but eventually they are working for the common purpose, that is completing this project. Then we would be moving to specific goals. Generally, do you think goals are important?
Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am. It is very
Yes.
important. Ma'am, yes.
Yes. So then how should a goal be? According to you, how should a goal be?
Achievable.
Should be motivative and achievable.
Achievable.
Yes. So generally when we are talking about goals, we talk about SMART goals, right? SMART, abbreviation. S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for achievable, R stands for realistic, and T stands for time bound. Whenever we are setting goals, all these SMART factors, as in the goal should be specific, the goal should be measurable, the goal should be achievable, the goal should be realistic, and the goal should be time bound, right? Whenever you are setting a goal, all these 5 factors you have to put it in your mind. Specific goal, every individual has to have a specific goal, or sometimes what happens is that if it is in group, the individual sets his or her goals, but as it is a team, right, everyone would be having collective goals. There are no individual goals, but there is a collective goal, that is whatever task is assigned to you, you have to complete that. Completing that task is a goal, but in also completing that task, I have to complete this particular task in 10 to 15 days. For example, if you are on a diet, you wanted to weight loss, you wanted to do weight loss, you have gained weight and you wanted to reduce your weight. Okay, so what you will be doing is that you have to set specific goal, as in how many kgs you wanted to lose, within how much time you wanted to lose, what all you wanted to eat. Everything should be time bound, right? I would be losing 5 kgs of weight. Okay, your goal can't be vague. You wanted to lose 5 kgs of weight, but till when? There would be some specific time, right? So I wanted to lose 5 kgs of weight till next month, or till 15th June or 15th July. So it should be time bound. Specific time should be set. If there is no time, then what happens is that individuals will become lazy, because there is no time limit, right? So they can do it whenever they wants to do it. So the goal should be SMART. You got it right? What does SMART mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then team efficacy. So what is efficacy?
Ability to perform.
Okay. So when we are talking about efficacy, it is the confidence in the team members. When we are talking about efficacy, we are talking about confidence. So what happens is that every member in the team should have confidence in the other team member, and they should overall mutually have confidence that they would be able to perform this task. If there is no confidence in the other team members, or if there is no confidence in themselves, then it would be difficult for them to perform that task. So it is important for the members of the team to have confidence on other individuals of the team and also on themselves. Then only the team would be proved to be effective. Then we would be talking about conflict levels. When we are talking about conflict level, if there is any conflict or any dispute between any members of the group, the other members would be able to solve it, or the members on between whom the dispute has occurred, they would be able to solve it. If they are not able to solve the conflict, then it would be when we have discussed the self-managed teams, right? There is no supervisor, there is nothing. Everyone would be supervising the other team members' work. Then it would be difficult for them to deal with each other, to work with each other. So it is important for the members, if there is any conflict, it is important for them to resolve that conflict in order to move forward or work on that particular task. So conflict resolution techniques or anything they should be applying, or the leader or the team lead can come in and give some suggestions or recommendations, what all they can do. So all this should be done. So the conflict levels, mostly the conflict levels should be kept minimal. So if the conflict level has been maximum, then again the team lead or the organization who have decided a theme, they have to look for the preferences, as in how did they select these employees. All that would be checked once again. So the conflict level should be minimal. Then we would be talking about social loafing. Just now we have spoke about social loafing, right? When we are talking about social loafing, what happens is that, for example, if the individual is given a goal or a task, he or she would be putting 95% of effort. So when he or she, the same person, is working in the team, the effort would be reduced. He or she might be giving only 25%. Why do you think the effort would be reduced? Why do you think?
They would think that others will do the same task.
Yes.
Or there could also be issues of conflict between the team members.
Yes. So what happens is that they might think that other members of the team would be doing the task, and also when evaluating the performance, right? While evaluating the performance, the organization won't be seeing which employee has did which work. Eventually, they are satisfied if the task given to the team is completed. The organization is satisfied with that. So the organization would be evaluating the whole team performance, but not the individual performance, right? So there won't be anything rewards or nothing. Even he won't be promoted or demoted, even if he or she does work. So what they would be thinking is that even if I put effort or not, my effort is not valued. My individual effort is not valued. Obviously, team effort is being valued, but my individual effort is not being valued. So what they will think is that it's okay. I won't be putting 95% of effort. I will be putting only 25% of my effort. So teams should be careful, organizations should be careful, as in he or she, the organization might tell them that each team, each individual's performance will also be evaluated along with the whole team performance. If any such guidelines or something should be given, so in order to reduce social loafing. You understood, right? How can a team be effective?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So then we would be talking about work teams and quality management. So when we are talking about quality management, however, we are picking members and making them as team. But on what factors are we making them team? Even after making them team, is the quality being managed? Whatever tasks we are giving to them, are they doing it to their maximum level? Are the teams we are providing effective? Everything should be seen as in team and quality management. Okay, quality management should be important. So once after the outcome, the team has performed well, there is an outcome. It is important for the organization to also check the quality of the outcome, whether the team members has given their best, or is there something which they would have given. So all these should be reflected on the outcome, so that the next time whenever they are planning to make teams or something, they would be able to know how to whom to give preference and all, or which guidelines to be given to the employees from the next time. They would be knowing that. So the quality management should be noticed even after the outcomes, even the results are done, the task is done, the results, you have known the results, but you also have to reflect on the results in order to know the quality of the results, right? How much ever the quantity might be large, but what is the quality of the results? All the employees might have worked, but what is the quality? What is the intensity of their effort? That should be checked. Okay, the organization should reflect on the results and outcomes of the performance of the employees. You all understood, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we got it.
So yes, we are done with work teams. Now we'll be moving to the other topic, which is communication. Okay. So what is communication?
Expressing one's opinions and views.
Okay.
Interacting with each other, ma'am.
About ideas.
Sharing the known information.
Sharing information.
How we delegate.
Yes.
The other thing is both of them understand what is being communicated. That is most important.
So whenever we are talking about communication, what we do is that generally we focus on interpersonal communication, right? Transfer of knowledge, interpersonal interaction between members. We mostly focus on interpersonal communication. Somewhere we are ignoring intrapersonal communication, right? Self communication. We communicate with ourselves. Right, mostly we would be focusing only on interpersonal communication, but do you think even intrapersonal communication is important?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So in
Yes,
what
important.
yes, in what ways do you think intrapersonal communication is important?
It will help us to,
Before
like,
taking
it's like
any
a
judgment or
motivating thing. We can
decisions
boost our
or
self-confidence, and
before judging
self-esteem
others.
can be improved when we are having intrapersonal communication. And whenever we feel down, so anytime we can just say that that's okay to feel low, you can boost up. So that's like indirectly we are making ourselves to boost up, which will help us to cope up with the situation in a better way next time.
Intrapersonal communication gives self-awareness, ma'am, which makes us to more improve our skills.
Yes. So whenever we are involved even in interpersonal communication, wherein you are communicating with the other individual, at the same time you are also involved in intrapersonal communication, because you are taking in some information, right? You're taking in some information, you're understanding the meaning of what the other individual is saying, right? So even whenever you are involved in interpersonal communication, at the same time you can also be involved in intrapersonal communication. Yeah. So communication involves the transfer of information and understanding of meaning, right? So there are 4 major functions of communication which we are going to see. The major functions of communication is control, motivation, emotional expression, and information. So can anyone of you tell me how communication, how control is the function of communication? Any idea how control can be function of communication? Okay, let me tell you. So what happens is that in organizations, when we are talking about control, communication has the power to control the behavior and action of an individual. So in organizations, it is very important for the organization to provide some guidelines, some ethical guidelines, what all the employee has to do, what all values the employees has to hold, what path the employee has to take. So there would be ethical guidelines, right? They shouldn't, for example, in any organization now, any organizations, if they give joining letters and offer letters, right? In any offer letter or joining letter, there would be some guidelines, rules, and regulations which each employee has to follow in order to work in this particular organization. Right? By communicating it, by written communication, they are communicating the individual or the employee that you have to abide by these rules. You can't go beyond these rules, beyond these limits, right? So it is important for the organization to give some rules and regulations, and they should be communicating the other employees that your work, your role, everything should be given the role, what all role the employee has to do, so that they won't be going out of control, or they won't be having any confusion. So when apart from organizations, when we are talking about informal communication which takes place between friends, family members, even in that communication also there is a control. Sometimes sometimes what happens is that we would be going out of control, as in our behavior would be entirely different, right? Well, entirely different, you'll be being very much aggressive, wherein you are not able to control your aggressiveness. So in such situations, when you are communicating with the other individual, when the other individual also reciprocates the communication, you will be able to calm down, right? Whenever you are expressing yourself, you will be able to calm down. So In this manner, communication would be helping us to control individuals' behavior and actions. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Then we would be going to motivation. So communications motivates individual. So what happens is that in an organization, for example, if the organization gives regular feedback, changes the roles, communicates with the employees on a regular basis, gives them what all roles they have to do, specifies what are the objectives, what are the goals of them, what is the organization's values, everything. If the organization communicates it with the employees, they would be motivated because they know whole information about what to do, what not to do, every information they have. They feel motivated to work because the reciprocation from the organization is good. They're also giving regular feedback to the employees for their performance. They know if they perform well, they would be getting positive feedback. If they won't perform well, they would be getting negative feedback. So getting immediate feedback would also motivate the employees to work well. So in these, communication plays also a major role in terms of motivation. Then comes emotional expression. How do you think communication is useful in emotional expression?
Through communication, we can express our emotions, ma'am.
It's a kind of non-verbal communication.
Venting out.
Yes.
Maybe the tone, ma'am, because while you communicate, if you have to express emotions, you have to modulate your tone.
So what happens? Yeah.
Communication is not only confined to the verbal communication, but also the non-verbal parts, like gestures, facial expression, all are included.
Yes. So even if we don't take non-verbal communication into the picture, even with verbal communication also we are able to express our emotions, right? When you are aggressive, your communication would be different. When you are calm, your communication style, the way of communication would be different. So when verbal communication is combined with non-verbal communication, then the intensity of the understanding would be more, right? So communication plays a major role in emotional expression. So when you're frustrated or something, your way of communication would be different. You might be shouting and communicating with others. When you're calm, peaceful, your way of communication would be different, right? So in such manner, you would be able to understand the other individuals. Whenever the individual is sad, you will be, the way of communication would be different. So from the tone, you would be able to know in which state of emotion, in which state of being they are presently, what emotion they are facing, what is going on, everything you would be able to understand, right? So we have to give importance to both verbal communication and also non-verbal communication. Then comes information. So what happens is that communication helps us to share information with each other. So when there is information, it would be easier for us to make some decisions, right? So if there is no communication between people or among people, if there is no communication, what happens is that we won't be getting enough information to decide. So if there is communication, when we are talking in organization point of view, if there is this communication, continuous communication between both organization and the employees, then only whenever they receive information, then it would be easier for them to make decisions, right? So in such way, the main functions of communication are control, motivation, emotional expression, and information. You understood, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are the functions of communication?
Control, motivation, emotional expression, information.
Yes. So now we'll be discussing about process of communication. So who do you think is important in this process of communication?
Sender and
Sender
receiver.
and receiver.
Yes. So in any conversation or communication, the sender and the sender and the sender and receiver plays an important role. Yeah. So now we will be discussing mostly the sender, channel, receiver would be important. Sender, encoding, channel, receiver, and decoding. All these would be 5 steps. So in sender's part, what all would be there is that message to be sent. First, the sender would be thinking what all message should be sent, or what should I be typing, or what should I be saying. So what should I be doing? What message I have to give to the receiver? First message to be sent would be decided by the sender. After deciding what message to be sent, the sender encodes it. Encodes it as in which manner I have to send it, or which words I have to use it. You have to encode in particular manner, right? You will be using some sort of words or some sort of signs in order to deliver that message, right? So first you have to decide what message to be sent, then you have to encode it in some format, then you have to look for a channel to deliver that message. Channel as in that might be verbal channel, written channel, non-verbal, or else you might be looking for any other platforms to deliver that message, right? There will be different platforms, channels to deliver that message. So whenever you are delivering through these channels, there would be some disturbance, that is noise. Noise as in any external stimuli which might be disturbing the sending process of the message. Okay, that might be disturbing the process of communication. So after selecting the channel, through which channel you would be sending the message to the receiver, then what happens is that the receiver receives the message. So even after the receiver receives the message, there is one more thing left out, that is decoding the message. Decoding the message is understanding whatever the sender has sent. Sometimes what happens is that the sender would be sending you the message in one way, as in there would be other meaning. You are interpreting it completely different. So whenever the receiver receives the message from the sender, what the receiver has to do or the sender has to do is that they have to take immediate feedback, right? The sender has to know whether the receiver has understood the message correctly, whether he or she have perceived the message correctly or not. So it is important for the sender and receiver to give the feedback whether they have understood the information or not. Okay, clear with this?
Yes, ma'am, we got the point.
So can you tell me what is the process? What all steps are involved in it?
Yes, ma'am. Sender, a message to be sent, and a encoding process, then channel, then there is a message receiver and decoding. Lastly comes the feedback.
Yes. So what happens is that mostly we'll be focusing on this. This is the diagram to just show you, but mostly we'll be focusing on 5 main aspects. That is the sender, then comes encoding, then comes channel, then comes receiver, and then comes encoding. Right? All these 5 are important. This is just the diagram to show you how the process is. So we'll be focusing on 5 main aspects of communication, that is sender, encoding, channel, receiver, and decoding of message. So all these noise we have to keep in mind whether noise is creating any disturbance or not, whether the receiver has interpreted it correctly, perceived the information correctly. The feedback should be taken. Okay.
Ma'am, here channel is mode of communication, is it?
Yes, channel is the mode of communication. In which mode you are communicating.
Okay.
So now we will be discussing about direction of communication. So when we are talking about direction of communication, yes.
ఇదే నోట్స్ 132 ఉన్నది అదే బుక్ పోయింది.
So when we are talking about the direction of communication, we are talking about the direction in which the communication is flowing. Okay. So there are 2 important types of communication. It is divided into 2 types, vertical and lateral communication. Again, further, this vertical communication is divided into 2 types, that is downward communication and upward communication. Okay. So when we are talking about vertical communication, it is both downwards and upwards. When we are talking about downward communication, as you know, there will be hierarchy in an organization, right? there would be boss or CEO, then comes managers, then comes team leads, then come employees, right? So when we are talking about downward communication, first the information would be from boss. The boss would be giving information to the manager would be giving information to the team lead would be giving the information to the employees. Okay, so do you find it useful, or are there any disadvantages for this type of communication?
No, it's a good flow of communication when there is upward and downward communication. It's a good flow. What information to be given by a boss to their employees, like that.
So sometimes what happens is that in this type of downward communication, when information is being passed through so many levels of hierarchy, right? So there is chances of manipulation of information. Even though the boss has given information to the manager, the information would be passing that information to the team lead. So even though the team lead don't want to manipulate the information, but the way the boss has communicated the information to the team lead, in the same way the team lead might not be communicating the information with the employees, right? So there might be misinformation or manipulation of information. So it is important for the organization or anyone who is communicating the information to the employees to be careful that the information is delivered correctly, or the communication would be good, as in there would be no manipulation of information whenever they are communicating. Okay. And also in downward communication, what happens is that many a times employees won't be able to communicate with their higher officials. They won't be able to share their problems, because what happens is that as there is many different levels of hierarchy, it would be harder for them to communicate with the official higher authority of that organization. So that are the disadvantages. Apart from that, it would, if it follows the, as in if it is written style of communication, they are passing down in the written form. If the boss passes it to manager passing it to team lead, and team lead passing it to employees, the information would be same, because the mode of communication or the style of communication you are following uh, doesn't change. There will be no manipulation of information in it. Okay. Then in the same vertical way, we would be discussing about upward communication. So in this upward communication, what happens is that from employees, the information would be passed to managers. From managers, the information would be passed to boss. Okay. So this is upward communication. When from employees, the information would be communicated to the boss. In this type of communication, what happens is that there would be two-way communication. So when the employee is being able to communicate with the boss, so if the boss feels there is need of communication, there is need of communicating something to the employees, then the boss will also be communicating with the employees. There is chance of interpersonal communication. As in, even the boss in downward communication, what happens is that as there is many levels of hierarchy, the employees won't be able to communicate with them. In upward, what happens is that from employees, the boss is receiving the information. So the boss has the authority in hands of him, so that he can communicate with his employees directly if there is a need. Okay. Then we will be discussing about lateral communication. So when we are talking about, it is also called as horizontal communication. So when we are talking about horizontal communication, this is the communication between employees or managers on the same hierarchy or same level. For example, there are different departments, right? There will be different departments in a company. Legal
Yes,
department. Yes. So the manager of the legal department would be sharing information with the manager of sales department. Sales department, then the managers of every department would be sharing the information horizontally. There is no vertical, upward or downward direction, but the information or the communication is going horizontally, as in from the same level. When it is communicated to employees, it would be from employees to employees. That is also horizontally, right? The information is passed on for the employees or the managers at the same hierarchical level. So there won't be any higher authority to whom they will be passing the information, but the information is passed between the employees of same level or the managers on the same level. That is about the lateral communication. Okay, understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Then we'll be dealing with interpersonal communication. So shall we continue it today or any doubts? Let's discuss doubts.
We can continue now.
Yeah. We have 8 minutes. Continue.
Yes, ma'am.
No doubts? Till here?
Continue,
Everything
ma'am.
clear?
Yeah, no doubt.
Ma'am, I have a doubt, ma'am. Hello?
Yeah.
Ma'am, which one is best one, ma'am? Upward one or lateral one, ma'am?
So we can't say which is the best method because based on the organization and the hierarchy in the organization, the structure of the organization, right? How is the structure of the organization? Based on the structure, what are the rules and regulations followed in it? So based on that organization, we would be able to prefer which one to use.
Ma'am, my question is out of the
Well
context.
explained, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes.
My question is out of the context. Like in upward communication, lower level have to communicate to the upper level employees. No? So there is a kind of hesitation. For example, if a student have to communicate to the teacher, they hesitate.
Yes.
You know, these factors is also be included in, ma'am. So
Yes.
how to remove that, barriers?
Yes. So that is what there are many different barriers in communication when we are talking about upward communication, right? Sometimes the organization has to take steps. In many of the organization, what happens is that there would be some complaint box, not even complaint box, as in they can share their issues without name or something, right? They won't be giving their name, but they have to communicate something to their boss. So what happens? They would be writing that and putting in that box wherein the boss, I'm saying the same thing. The boss has the authority whether he or she can discuss it with their employees. If they are hesitating for something, it is on the organization side to just communicate with the employees. The communication from boss to the employees is very much important. In order to remove that barrier, the organization has to take certain steps, something like unknown name, without any name they can give some information via letters, written communication or something. So they can take any steps which is under their control.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That's satisfactory.
Madam, can you please share the first slide, please? The difference between the group and the team, ma'am. The first slide, ma'am, please.
You're able to see it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Any more doubts?
No, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
So in an interpersonal communication, why do you think interpersonal communication is important? Anyone of you, why do you think interpersonal communication is important?
To improve the relationships, ma'am.
Okay.
In order to convey the message properly from the organization to the employees.
Yes.
To have a good flow of word.
So what are the different types of interpersonal communication?
Oral communication, written communication, non-verbal.
Through mails, messages, meetings.
So these all mails. Yes.
Oral communication, written communication, non-verbal.
Yes. So in 3 ways or in 3 forms, we can communicate with others. That is using oral communication methods, written communication methods, and non-verbal communication methods. Okay. So we'll discuss this interpersonal communication tomorrow.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, will you please share all these slides, screenshots in a group?
In which group?
In our psychology second year group, ma'am. That will be helpful for us for
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, you can share the link over here so that we can share it in the group, as I believe that you are not in the group.
Yeah.
Please, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
tomorrow after the class, I'll be sharing it.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
effort, ma'am.
Thank you. So yeah, you all can leave the meeting.